Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever YouTube video from Big Mek BoomBlasta. Let's go. Today we're going to be going over who I am, my hobby journey I guess, as well as how I got into 40k, why I love Orks, and what this channel is going to be about. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And before I start talking about me, I mean you guys can see it on the screen, but I'm painting a Big Mek. This is actually the Big Mek from the Cromlech set. Comes with like this Big Mek with a bunch of different grots, ones with like a banner that I was thinking of using as like a Makari replacement, but here's the Big Mek out of that set. I plan on painting up the other ones, but yeah, just thought I'd throw something up there so you guys have something to watch instead of just hear me talk rambling about random stuff. But yeah, so I mean you guys obviously don't know who I am. My name's Zach. I've been in the hobby for around 15 years now. I got into 40k with the Assault and Black Reach set. My brother took the Space Marines, I took the Orks, and that's kind of how it really started. From there it was definitely a case of I would play a lot during the summers, not really during the school year like as many kids really do with 40k I feel like. But I got back into it, like I'd say properly, like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I've always had the models laying around, and I always love how the Orks look, as well as how all the 40k models look. They've always been like super cool to me, and that's really what drew me into the hobby more than anything else. Like obviously it was kind of a way for me to spend time with my brother and a couple friends and stuff like growing up, but models are always like absolutely epic, and the ones that are coming out with recently I was like, well yeah, definitely got to get back into this. But at the time of getting back into it, I was living in like upstate New York, and they have a really good scene up there of like people playing, as well as helping other people get back into the hobby and stuff. So I was chatting to some people up there, went into a local game store, and they got me hooked immediately into like more of the competitive scene almost. And I wouldn't say I'm like a total cutthroat player, but whenever me and my brother would play, he usually brought his Death Guard, I brought my Orks, and they would always be like super down to the wire games, especially in terms of like Death Guard versus Orks. All my models would be dead, definitely by like turn 4 or something. So it really taught me how to play the game to get points almost, because I knew all my stuff was gonna die. Just the nature of the beast when playing against such a tough army with such a glass cannon army like Orks, and especially like back then I wasn't taking the optimal choice or whatever for war gear loadouts and stuff. But no, I think that definitely like helped me like almost prepare for it in a way, because you're used to those games where all your models lose, because that's what I feel like most people going into like competitive scene and stuff, like a lot of their models die, especially when you're playing a horde army like Orks, and they freak out. But if you focus on the objectives, you'll be all right. And yeah, we can definitely chat about this more extensively in another episode for sure. I think it's an interesting topic to talk about. But my advice for anyone who's like truly looking to get into like the 40k scene competitively, I think I heard it on Tabletop Tactics once. Lawrence was saying that you want to build up a faction because you love the faction anyways, and just have all the models available because you think they're cool and you like playing. Once you have like a really solid base of models and the different units, and that's when you can start saying, okay, I like this unit, it fits competitively in the list or whatever, and you can really start trying to craft those lists, just because you have like the amount of models you need to build those competitive lists, just because a lot of the times like you might be a little bit skewed to one type of model or this, that, the other thing, But anyways, back to the main topic of conversation before I get too sidetracked. Why creating a YouTube channel? Like, why do it? And I think the major reason for me is there's not too many people in my local area. I live like just north of Nashville almost, and there's not too many Ork players around here, so I was I've got a Discord server for the local game store I go to and stuff, and everyone there's super nice, don't get me wrong, but this, it is different talking to like a Ork player versus somebody else. So I wanted to be able to talk shop, I guess, the cool kids say it, online, and more importantly create an Ork community where I can share whatever I want and get responses, whether it be painting different Ork units or when I'm running for a local RTT, or just anything on my mind really. Because I think that's the great thing about Warhammer, like the community is such an important part of it, and especially the Orc community. I think the Orc community is by far the best people who play 40k, because like whenever you meet an Orc player, the stereotype is true. They are the best 40k players in terms of like they're in it for the right reasons. Like you don't collect this many expensive models, paint them up, and play them, when you're an Orc player just to play the game. Like you paint it because you really love the game as well as the faction and kind of the lore behind it and everything. And there's so many cool different custom Orc clans as well as cool paint schemes that I've seen, especially conversions. Like that is something that I'll have to show you guys in a separate video, but I absolutely love converting. That's really kind of one of the major things of Orcs that drew me in, as well as like kept me going, because I went through a phase, I'm sure most people do, of collecting a bunch of different armies, as well as like not really sure like what I guess my main faction should be at one point when I first started off. But the great thing about Orcs is they've all turned into trucks now. One way or another, they've kind of all been converted. I even converted a Dark Elder flyer into a Mek BoomBlasta jet. So that's the best thing about Orcs. You can really use whatever and just convert it into an Orc plane. In terms of the clan that I predominantly play, some of you astute people might have already realized it by the paint scheme of this guy, but I'm a massive Evil Sons player. I absolutely love the faction in terms of like the speed freak element as well as the bikes. I just think they're such cool models and such cool like aesthetics almost around the fact that you go as fast as possible, you try to shoot as loud as possible. But I think it's mainly down to the fact that I've always liked bikes, like motorcycles in general, and like having those orky motorcycles just rev around the battlefield going 24 inches or something crazy like that. It's always funny whenever we're going over lists like before the game and stuff, and you kind of go over like, oh, here are my bikers, here are my Death Killer War Trikes and all that thing, and the opponent asks, oh, how far can they move? And you say like, oh, 12 inches, but they can advance 6 inches and then charge on the WAAGH, and they're like, what? So you're going 18 plus 2d6, and you're like, yep. They could really be wherever, whenever you want, and that's just like the best feeling in the world, honestly, just being able to kind of reposition your entire army or attack a flank, and just catch someone kind of not off guard, but just kind of like tactically outmaneuver them almost. But no, that's why I really love speed freaks. I love kind of a balanced style of list, especially kind of being like fast, aggressive, and have like a good bit of shooting in it. I feel like obviously all the different types of Orcs can do that, but for me the speed freaks are like, that's my bread and butter almost. Haven't gotten all the buggies yet. I think I'm missing the Squig Launcher one. I've got the Scrap Jets and the Custom Booster Blaster, but the other ones I've got to get, because their models are absolutely epic and they're really fun to play. But I never like to go pure shooting, to be honest, just because the melee is just so fun in terms of getting in people's faces and trying to like be aggressive and get on the points and crump them and stuff. But to each in their own, there are so many really fun ways to play Orcs. You could play in golf and just take masses of boys, which I've heard is really good with this new Green Tide stuff. I actually haven't played the new Green Tide, so that's definitely on the bucket list. So if any of you have, let me know in the comments down below. Also, while you're down there, let me know how you got into Orcs. I find that pretty interesting, to be honest. But looks like my Big Mek's pretty much done. Like how he turned out, honestly. I think he'll be cool addition to the force, and I especially like how his jaw turned out with those yellow teeth on it. I think that's looking good. But no, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.